Happy holidays, even though I'm sure the holidays are over by now. But nonetheless, happy holidays. I hope you all had a safe and fantastic Christmas, New Year's Eve, New Year's, whenever this video comes out. January? But we're back in time right now, and it is the holidays. So I thought, why not spend the free time sculpting something a little bit different? My biggest sculpt yet, a disgustingly cute, kind of goofy looking gingerbread or GingerDREAD Man. You know, right? GingerDREAD Man? I like that. I'm still working on the name. But enough rambling. Let's get started. So I found this random box on my neighbor's doorstep, so I brought it inside, and would you look at that? Fresh, beautiful clay. Thanks, neighbor. Let's just pull these out, shall we? Monster clay, great. My favorite clay that I'm using right now, it also comes in terracotta and green. 5 pounds. Well, we'll be using 10 pounds because this is going to be a big project. Let me tell you that. This is going to be my biggest project yet. And I'm very excited to get to work. You know what? Let's just open one up here. I just want to get that smell real quick, because there's nothing better than some fresh smelling clay. It really gets you aroused and ready to work. This stuff is a little bit frozen because it was outside and it's a little cold here. But this stuff is hard when it's not warmed up. But let's get to work. I chose some very specific tools. Just joking, I'm using all these tools actually. You know, I can never pick just one. So we're gonna use all this. And of course, some lighter fluid and a lovely blowtorch. Oh, Jesus. Almost lit my finger on fire. Let's just move that aside, shall we? The most important tool that I will be using is, well, my hands, of course, but also this mannequin head, or the Ed head from monster makers, which also make the monster's clay that I'm using. And for reference, well, I sculpted this dude in my 3D program very quickly in like 2 hours. I just needed some type of reference that I could follow instead of going blindly. I find that reference helps me a lot. And we're going to try and get this looking as close as it can to what the reference is. Of course, with some little changes here and there. Now, we're just slathering this dude all in this monster clay, trying to build up the big forms and kind of get the silhouette of what this gingerbread man is going to look like. Drawing in the mouth, because he's going to have a big smile that dips way back into the cheeks there. And as well, this dude is going to have many rules because, well, I don't know, he's a cookie. And I think cookie monsters would have a lot of rules from, you know, baking them in the oven too long. For most of this bulking out stage, I use my hand mainly to, you know, bring in the big forms. I don't really switch to tools unless I can't get to an area that I can't reach with my fingers, because my fingers are fat and stubby and it's hard to get in small places. So if you have fat and stubby fingers like I do, well, don't be afraid to use a tool. I wanted this gingerbread man, or GingerDREAD Man, to have a very big grin. Like, he's happy to be out of the oven and he's ready to, I don't know, devour humans, or devour human flesh, whatever you want to say. So I really wanted his expression to mimic that sinister grin, you know, especially in the mouth and in, well, the one eye, because the other eye is going to be melted. Because in my eyes, he was kept in the oven too long, so the melted eye part is going to be all burnt and crispy. Makes him look a little bit more deranged. The neck is looking pretty thin, so we're just trying to bulk up the neck there. And of course, trying to make these cheeks a lot fatter, because I didn't realize how fat his cheeks were in the concept art that I did. So we're just trying our best to mimic what I see in the concept. Next is one of my favorite parts of the sculpt, is building up the back neck fat. Now this dude, he's got some neck fat on him, alright? He's got more rolls on the back of his neck than a bakery, which is kind of funny because he stems from a bakery. Rolling up 2 different sizes of clay balls, we stick them right in the socket. We want one eye to be bigger than the other to be smaller. One thing this guy needs is a beautiful nose. Now, once I started to sculpt this nose, I noticed that it was taking up too much room, and it was drooping too low to where the mouth was, because there needs to be more room between the mouth, or the lips, upper lips, and the nose, to have that space in between, and it just was not working for me. So I decided to rip it off and make a completely different nose. And to be honest, I'm very glad I did this, because this nose looks so much better than the one I was doing. And then we pick his nose, just like that. Yeah, get in there. The next part we work on is the brow region. Now, I don't think gingerbread men have brow ridges, but I wanted to add some human anatomy into this figure. So we add some of the brow ridges and some of the fat pads and try and mix it up a little bit as well to make it look more human. The more human like a creature looks, the more disturbing it is to us visually. Let's add in the lips. Now I know what you're thinking. Those don't look like lips at all. Well, no, because these lips are going to be frosting. So it's just going to be like one giant line of frosting, making up those delicious lips that you just want to kiss. Mwah. The idea for the teeth for this gingerbread man was supposed to be gumdrops. But instead, with this one, with the clay sculpt, I decided to go with just like big, goofy looking molars and teeth. Think Killer Clowns from Outer Space, one of my favorite movies. And I would say if you look at this guy, it kind of takes inspiration from that movie a little bit. Kind of cartoonish, kind of silly looking. And to be honest, the big molar teeth actually just look a lot better on this dude than what the gumdrops would have looked like. The neck is looking a little bit too thin, not enough girth in this neck, so we just roll up some clay and we build that girth out. I just love my girth in a good sculpt, you know? Once we get the main shapes and the silhouette looking pretty good, I end up just kind of smoothing everything out with a kidney tool and a little guitar string that I turned into a little rake tool. It works very well to smooth out edges and round things off. It honestly works really great. I was thinking about doing a video about making my own tools. If you want to see that, definitely let me know. Adding in the gums around the teeth so the teeth look like they're actually inserted into the gums, into the mouth, instead of just kind of, existing. Let's grab Mr. Blowtorch and just kind of smooth everything else out even more. Look at that, looking all glossy and beautiful, nice and smooth. Now we can do a little bit more fine detailing, like adding in this mouth bite. This gingerbread man, he had to have had an encounter with somebody, Maybe in one of his previous kills, he got into a tussle and this dude or woman just took a bite out of him right in the top of the head, and that made him very angry, and he ended up murking the person afterwards. But I wanted to add a mouth bite because I thought that was just a really neat idea. Now, I've never done a mouth bite before, so my first thought was to actually take a bite of the sculpt and have my mouth print in it, but the clay does not taste that good. It is edible, but I wouldn't recommend it. So I try my best just to try and sculpt a mouth bite, and I think it turns out pretty cool. The lines that I'm marking out with this tool on the top of the head here are just going to be where those top kind of wrinkle rolls are. I don't know if you call them wrinkles or rolls because he's a cookie. Let's call them rolls. I'm just marking out where the rolls are going to be, so I have kind of a guide of where to place them. And once we place them down, we just start to smooth and round everything off kind of as we go. What's really great about this clay is when it's warm, you can actually roll out some tubes, and as you're pushing the clay into the clay itself, you can actually pull it and elongate it as you're pushing it in. It's pretty neat, and it makes working very fast. As if there can be even more rolls, well, there you go, more rolls. And now we do the tedious process of just kind of trying to blend everything in, round out the edges with this flat tool, which is great for moving clay around, cleaning it up a little bit. I have come to the conclusion that the back of the neck is just not rolly enough. Therefore, we need to accentuate the rolls in the back of the neck, make it even more rolly. I want rolls upon rolls upon rolls, with rolls going into other rolls, overlapping, overhanging, so it just looks like one behemoth of a roll that's just folding in on itself. I want it to look gross and disgusting. That's the main goal. It's just all about following that creative goal and rolling with it. That was terrible. I'm sorry. Once we get everything looking the way we want it, we grab our little loop tool here and we just try and make all the lines look more detailed, more refined, I should say. To make the eye look melty, I was thinking about taking my blowtorch to it and just melting the eye, which I do at one point here, but it doesn't really work out too well. So I just sculpted, well, the melted parts of the eyeball. I want this eyeball to, well, it's made of frosting, so I want it to be nice and gooey and just like a heavy frosting that's just dripping down. He was baked too long, and as the frosting went on, his face was still hot and burnt. That just started to like boil and kind of just melt down his face. I was going to show you how I did the eye bag on the other eye, but I somehow lost the footage, and I'm not sure where it is. But just know we used more rolls for the eye bag. And now we're just smoothing out all the corners and all that, using some lighter fluid with a sponge, and just smoothing everything out. Great way to get rid of tool marks, fingerprints, to get rid of those like little balls that kind of happen when you kind of rake the surface of the clay. After the sponge bath, I take this blow dryer here and we just kind of heat the surface just a little bit to smooth everything out. And look at that. It's looking very nice and glossy. On to the texturing. Now, I don't know how to do a cookie texture, so I just try my best to make this really cool texture though using one of my loop tools. We just dab it all around, and then we take a pretty coarse sponge and we wipe it over the surface to smooth it down, and then take some lighter fluid, smooth it out even more, and we get this really cool texture. Kind of looks cookie-ish to me, but you could also say maybe it's like a skin texture. But I mean, it looks like a cookie texture to me. What do you think? Using that coarse sponge to knock down all those edges, and then we take the heat gun to kind of soften everything else up. And don't forget about the pupils. Adding in some small detail here of just some cracks that formed around the bites. After all, he's a hard gingerbread man. He can crack, but he doesn't break. I ended up doing a different texture on the face because I wanted the face to stand out from, well, the rest of the sculpt, like the neck and everything. So I think it's a nail tool with a little ball at the end, and we just kind of dab little pores all over the face. Now, I looked at some cookie texture, and apparently, cookies, they do have like small pores in it a little bit. So we just pour it up all over the face, trying to make this cookie texture look cookie-ish. And then take a blowtorch and smooth everything else out. Now his left eyeball, well, his left side is a little bit burnt, so we gotta rough up the surface a little bit. And we just take these like wire brushes, we just scrape the surface, poke all around, take the heat gun and smooth it all out. And then, oh, look at that, it kind of looks burnt. He has definitely seen better days. So we start to add in the final details. We add in the gumdrop on the chin, and we put a little clay circle on the bottom so it looks like the icing is pushing out. And then these little dots are there to represent little icing dots. Kind of like, we're decorating the gingerbread man himself. Putting all these dots all over every single roll on his face, which took, well, it felt like eternity. But there we go. A GingerDREAD Man. But one final thing. We gotta add in his little bow tie. Looking smashing, sir. And now for the final shot. The GingerDREAD Man, ready to consume all human flesh and to get back at those who try to eat him. If you enjoyed this video, be sure to hit that like button. Subscribe if you haven't subscribed already so you don't miss the next video coming out. And I'll see you in the next spooky video. Goodbye.